YouTube. Today another program review. We are working on an athlete's program and it's Alexandria this time, who is an MMA fighter. So we're going to have to keep that in mind as I take a look at his programming, because he's not necessarily training to be the biggest or the strongest, he's training to be good at his sport. So he tells me that he has 130 pounds of free weights and bends. So I need to keep that in mind for the rep ranges, because he might not be able to go as low because he doesn't have the ability to stack the weights and bump the intensity up. He's maximizing what he can get done until he gets more weights, which would be optimal, and a bench and rack, which of course are also absolutely necessary if you want to develop your entire body. You will not be able to get full leg development without a squat rack. Same for the chest with the bench. These are non-negotiable. It will make your life so much easier. The program is 6 days a week for 4 weeks. So between 30 and 45 minutes per session to make sure they can fight the 30 minutes to 1 hour of MMA that he needs to do after the training. Of course, MMA fights do not last 30 minutes, but he needs to basically make sure that he doesn't empty his tank, because he still needs to spar and do his MMA specific practice, because any weight training you can do, even if you really try to stay specific, is never going to be as specific as sport specific practice. That's pretty self-explanatory. But it's still very important for injury prevention and to develop your overall athleticism and strength that you will then test and utilize as you fight. But if you do one or the other, it doesn't mean it loses its purpose. Just because you lift doesn't mean you're a good fighter, and just because you fight doesn't mean that you're the best version of you that you could be. You could be lifting weights and actually be better. Okay, so now that I have that in mind, I must say that if you train 6 days a week, Alexandria, that is already something that is going to tap into your recovery, right? So keep in mind that you could lower the frequency if you needed. I personally am not a big fan of blocks for bodybuilders, but for athletes, especially martial artists who do train on the side and do resistance training, you can actually periodize and create blocks leading up to a competition where you will start with a lot more of weight training, and you're going to temper down as you approach the day of the competition, where you're going to do more and more sparring and be more and more specific. Just throwing that out there. Okay, so now that the introduction is done, let's talk about the program. On day one, he does shoulders and back, which is not synergistic at all as far as body part split go, because lifts that recruit the shoulders usually don't involve the back, and vice versa. So keep that in mind, that's not a super optimal split. He does overhead press, and then he does bodyweight pull-ups. He doesn't tell me the rep range of overhead press. I always encourage people to go for a lot of volume on the overhead press and to also get some taste of intensity. So for example, something that I like to do is 6 sets of OHP, 3 that are going to be your intensity sets that are going to usually be 2 to 3 sets, 2 to 3 reps, and the other 3 that are just going to be for volume purposes with an artificially lowered intensity where you're going to get 5 reps. That you know for a fact you're getting 5 reps. Depending on the person, that might be a difference in 20 pounds, 25 pounds. Okay, so the overhead press and pull-up superset I actually really like, especially if you apply the amount of volume I say for the overhead press, because it carries over to the vertical pulls that the pull-ups represent. You can never do too much pull-ups. If you know how to protect your tendons, it's one of the safest exercise. It's going to blow up your back. It's not hard on your recovery. It actually elongates the spine. It's a good thing. The overhead press can put a surprising amount of stress on the lumbar spine. So supersetting that with something that is going to have you hanging from the bar is excellent. After that, he does, so he does tell me the rep range, he just puts them at the end. So overhead press 5x5, not awful. For overhead press and bench, 5x5 is not terrible. I like 3x5 better, and I like evolving rep ranges even better. But for someone like you who might not be super focused on progressing, a 5x5, it's sort of contradictory what I just said, because 5x5 is going to be the most conducive to progression as long as you are actually allowing the lift to progress. Meaning that if you do 5x5 but you never put weight on the bar, then you're not progressing on it, right? But it's still going to be a good way to get a lot of volume in an intensity window that is still relevant. It's not as relevant as evolving rep ranges, but it's still good. After that, he does banded face pulls, excellent lift, 4 sets of 25, perfect rep range. You need a lot of volume, you need the sets to have a lot of reps, because you need to be able to feel the mechanical failure coming, because face pulls are not only useless if you have what I call a postural failure, but they also become dangerous, because now you are reinforcing bad posture and poor external shoulder rotation instead of doing the opposite. So 4x25 is excellent. And he supersets that with lateral raises 4x20, so the sets match. 4x20 on the lateral raises is a lot of volume for the shoulders, but that's, for me, a very good rep range for that lift, because you need to be able to control it. You don't want to just swing the weight around. And it's a smart superset, because even though you do work a little bit of side delt with the banded face pulls, they don't get activated as much as you think they do. And the lateral raises is going to also involve the traps in a different fashion. So that's, in my opinion, an excellent day, if I disregard the fact that the appellation for the day was not super specific. I say shoulders and back, and I introduced the day with that, is not the most synergistic, but if it's done like this, it is. Because the overhead press will actually light up certain area of the upper back. And because he, after that, supersets with some pull-ups and some, especially the face pulls and the raises, he works the muscle that already got warmed up by the overhead press. So I take it back. That type of shoulder and back split is really good. And this is textbook. Like, this is minimalist. It's not going to last you an hour or 2 hours. It's 45 minutes and you're done. But this is a good workout. This is going to put size on your shoulders and upper back guaranteed. And you're also going to remain injury free due to the pull-ups, and you're going to get additional upper back volume. And this is also, in a sense, the reason why back body part splits don't make much sense to me, because you should really be working your upper back every single day with varying levels of intensity, of course. Don't do heavy shrugs every single day. Don't do heavy rack pulls every single day. But the portions of the upper back and the different muscles can really be abused, especially if you can target them without involving the lower back. The amount of volume you can throw is insane, and it's injury proof. But I digress. So very good day one. Excellent. Day two, legs and back. Just legs. Back squat 4x8. Okay, I like that rep range. I think that just by slapping a 4x8 to 12, you would make that day much better. If you want to stay low intensity, you can do 6 to 8, but you told me you don't have much weight. So give 8 to 12 reps a try. With bends. All right, so you bend your squats, nothing wrong with that. Just keep in mind that it can be taxing on the shoulders. If you need more information on that, you can check out Dave Tate's video on the matter. He personally hurt his shoulders doing squats with bends, so he has experiences talking about that. After that, dumbbell lunges, which is a good movement for fighters. I'm not saying squats are bad, but dumbbell lunges are good because they're going to put you in positions that you might end up with as you fight. 3 to 5 sets of 5 reps for each leg. Okay, that's sort of high intensity for dumbbell lunges. That being said, with dumbbells, I think it's a little bit safer than with a barbell, because if something goes wrong and you lose balance or you feel like you're pushing into an injury, you can just let go of the dumbbells. So it's not something that's going to be dangerous. And then bodyweight squat jumps, 3 sets of 12. So after the back squat and the dumbbell lunges, you do your explosive movement I like it because you're not trying to test your explosivity or athleticism, you're trying to train it. So whether you do it in a fatigued state or in a fresh state doesn't matter. I would even argue that by doing it afterwards, you're going to damage the muscle fiber even more, and you're going to teach your body how to remain explosive even when it's tired. Fighting is tiring, and if your legs give up, especially in a fight like MMA, you're pretty much toast. So that's good. A second day that is flawless, again, excellent programming. I would just change the rep range as I said. Day 3, chest and back. Again, now I'm starting to know what type of wood you're made of, Alexandria, and I fully expect that you're going to integrate the part of the back that actually would make that synergistic. A lot of people will tell you chest and back is good because you can do bench press and rows. I fully agree with that, but you have to keep in mind that the muscles involved in the press and the muscle involved in the pulls, even though they sort of cohabit with each other because they provide support, do not get warmed up to the same degree that they would need to if you want to hit them hard. So keep that in mind. So he starts with dumbbell floor press, which I've done for 3 years because I didn't have a choice, and I think it's the same for you. You don't have a bench, so you don't have a choice. This is a subpar version of the dumbbell bench. Why? Because you don't get the stretch at the bottom. Because unless you really have short arms, the floor is going to stop you short. But when you don't have a bench, that's all you can do, right? I must say that I got very low results from doing dumbbell floor presses. At least for my chest, maybe for my triceps a little bit, but even then my triceps were weak after my dumbbell phase. So I would not encourage people to do that lift, but you do what you do. You make do with what you have, right? After that, bent over rows, which is a superset, excellent superset. Your grip is not going to get tired from a floor press. As I said, the chest and upper back superset is good as long as you're warmed up. And you do 3 sets of 5 for the... Is that the rep range or is that... I think this is the sets. So I don't know how many sets you do on this because you didn't really tell me, but 3 to 5 reps on the floor press and 8 to 10 on the row, I guess. Unless this is, I don't know, because you made some like weird math thing with your reps, so I don't know. I will pin your comment, Alexandria, so you will be able to tell me exactly what you meant here. I would say if you do 3 to 5 reps on the floor press, that's a little bit low, especially with the struggle it's going to take to get the dumbbells up. It's going to be almost as taxing as the exercise itself, so maybe not a good thing. And if you do 8 to 10 for the rows, that's a great rep range for the rows. After that, you do barbell tricep extension. I'm not a good fan of these, especially done standing up. I feel like they put too much pressure on the wrist and they don't really allow for a good stretch, especially if you're standing completely upright. That being said, again, you make do with what you have. And then you superset that with Dumbell Hammer curls. Great superset. Supersetting triceps and biceps is a must-have for people who want to grow their arms. You will find that whether you start with the bicep or tricep component of the superset, your arm feels different, your performance is going to be different, the results is going to be different, so experiment. And it's 3 sets of 10 to 15, great rep range for that type of isolation movement. 3 sets it's not super high volume, but it's good. I'm keeping in mind you're a fighter, so this is a way for you to build your strength so that you can utilize it in your fighting. Day 4. Shoulders and back. Again, shoulders and back. You are really focusing on these, and I understand why. These are important muscles for fighters. The shoulders, especially if you need to have a lot of endurance in them, because a direct way to make sure that you don't get sucked in the face is being able to do this, to keep your guard up. That being said, anyone who's done a martial art or a sport, a fighting sport, knows that this is actually not super easy 4 rounds in, because your hands are lowering because your shoulders are on fire. So focusing on shoulder training is a good thing. Same for upper back. The strength of the punches comes, of course, from the floor and the hip rotation, but also from your upper back. So very good. So you do the overhead press and pull up again, but this time it's a 3. It's your rep ranges are strange. 3 to 5 sets of 8, I guess. Which, okay, so now you for the first time you had a 5x5, so strict 5x5, so a tonnage of 25. Here you have an evolving set within the rep range. I always advise people who do evolving rep ranges to start with the rep part of the evolution before you do the set part. That being said, this is going to allow you to control your volume, so why not? Which means you're going to go from a tonnage of 24, which would mimic the tonnage you got on day 1, all the way up to a potential tonnage of 40, which would be almost double. I'm not a fan of this. See, because 3x8 in this situation, I didn't really express that in my 5x5 video, but I did at the end. But if you do static rep ranges, the higher you go in the rep range, the more vapid or useless the static nature of the range becomes. You do 3 sets of 8. If you got 8 reps on the first one, you sandbagged for sure, because you managed to replicate that high rep range, that high volume in the third set. So I would tell you, keep your 3 to 5 reps, all right? But after that, I would do an 8 to 12, so that you have actually you actually use the evolution of the set to have more volume manipulation instead of being stuck like this. And repeating sets that either are going to not push you in high intensity windows or are going to be too high in intensity. That's weird discrepancy that I don't like with that type of rep range. He tells me that he does pull-up supersets, so all good with pull-ups. I personally never count my pull-ups. I go to failure every single time, besides my warm-up sets, but that's just the way I approach it. And he jumps for the last 2 pull-up reps. So more athleticism, I guess. And then standing, alternating dumbbell press and dumbbell real delt row, so more work for the shoulders. And he does 3 sets of 8 to 10. Love the rep range, love the exercise, and love the superset. You're gonna find with shoulders, most people don't get it, but besides horizontal presses and a certain amount of vertical press that stress the shoulder a lot, horizontal presses because it stresses the tendons, vertical presses because it stresses the integrity of the body so that you can remain vertical and rigid, and the muscles involved in stabilizing the shoulder girdle. A lot of shoulder exercises, you can really throw a massive amount of volume at the shoulders because there are 3 heads, and besides its massive disadvantage in it's too high of a mobility, meaning that you can easily injure them, they can actually endure a fair amount of punishment. Day 5, legs. Conventional deadlift, I love that. Some people will tell you, well, fighters shouldn't do conventional deadlifts, they should do trap bar deadlift, they should do Jefferson. I don't know, because I've never used the deadlift when I was a quote-unquote athlete, and I was never really advanced in any fighting sport, so I don't know. But if that floats your boat, keep doing that. With bent, okay, most likely because you don't have enough weight, and you do a 5x8. That's a lot of volume for the deadlift. So I suppose you go very low in intensity, which you only have 130 pounds. So now that I think of it, even for your back squat, this is why you use bends, because the weight is not enough to challenge yourself. So I get it. For the back squat, my advice still stands. You can go higher in reps. But for this, I'm not going to touch it. You do your 5x8. It's a lot of volume. If you did that if you are at home or you train at a commercial gym and you have an amount of weight that is challenging enough for the deadlift, you will not have to use that rep range. That rep range is bad for deadlift. That being said, when you don't have enough weight, it's decent. After that, dumbbell deadlift, which in a sense, a dumbbell deadlift is closer to a deficit trap bar deadlift. So why not? I did dumbbell deadlifts for years because I didn't have a choice. and you do a 5x10. So you're basically doing a ton of pull from the floor volume on your day 5 once a week. I get that. Certain muscles that the pull from the floor develop are not going to be super useful for fighting, I guess. That being said, having a rigid core is always a good thing. And then you do assisted pistol squats 3x5. So I like how you have a tendency when you train lower body to always throw in something athletic at the end, so that you, in a sense, always end the strength resistance part of your training with something that is more sport specific. That's a good move. I know we have Moose Cox on the channel who also does MMA, so he can vouch for that or disapprove. But your intake is welcome. Day 6, and that's the last day, chest and back. Okay, so you really love your chest and back, and your shoulder and back. And you do dips and inverted rows, and you do your weird 3 to 5, 8 to 10. Oh wait, is that what I think it is? Oh, okay, never mind then. Okay, so I think it is what I think it is. It just confused me because on the overhead press you did not include that. You just included the evolving rep range. So what you call the 3x5 and 8 to 10 is actually 3 to 5 sets by 8 to 10 reps. Okay, that's an evolving rep range. That's what I call a complete evolving rep range. I do think that if you do a 3x5 when the set evolve, 8 by 10 reflects 3 sets. It does not reflect 5 sets. I would say do 8 by 12 because that way the range of the 3x5 is mirrored with the 8 by 12, if you know what I mean. If you do 3, you have the intensity ability to go and do your 10s, but you need the ability to push it if you go all the way to 5 reps, because if you do 5 reps, how do you progress? Are you going to do 12, 12, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10? You need to be able to bump it and do maybe 12, 12, 11, 10, 10, and then you can jump up. If you have questions, please let me know in the comment that I will pin. I will answer. I know evolving rep ranges can be a little bit complicated sometimes. Okay, so dips. So now you're doing dips just once, meaning that with you it's not a problem, because since you don't do straight barbell bench, you're not being as specific to start with, so it's not an issue. And supersetting dips with inverted rows again, horizontal pull and horizontal press, they superset very well together, so very nice. The inverted row is an athletic movement because it's calisthenics, same for the dips. So this is sort of your first upper body day, besides all the pull-ups you do, of course, where you're doing something that people would qualify to be athletic. It's, I think, a good idea to do that type of thing before your day off. And then you superset that with push-ups and dumbbell rows, AMRAP for 2 sets. I love that. If you go AMRAP, even with push-ups and you're pre-fatigued by dips, this is enough, right? 2 sets is enough. You will find that you're going to reach a point where going back to baseline is basically going to be impossible at this point. So you did your job. The muscle fibers are trashed, it's time to go home. Remember also that our boy Alexandria trains after that. So overall, because I'm going to wrap up here, I think this is one of my favorite programs. I think it's really smartly crafted for what you intend to do and with the limitations that you have. I had something I wanted to say. Yes, I really like the fact that you have an upper body focus, meaning that out of the 6 days of the split, the upper body is trained 4 days and the lower body is only trained 2 days. That makes total sense for someone who wants to be able to utilize that energy somewhere else on the mats. Lower body lifts are more taxing on the body. On the CNS, usually accumulate a lot of tonnage very fast. It stresses the tendons of the body more, and they take a toll. So unless you're a guy like me who doesn't care because all I do is lift, I don't do sports, you need to take it easy on the squats and the deadlifts, which is exactly what he did here. So if you need a good example of how to keep squatting and deadlifting and build up your strength while not completely depleting yourself and hurting your performance, this is the way to go. Upper body lifts are not going to be as taxing, they don't damage your ability to move on the mat and to spar as much. So thank you for your program, Alexandria. I hope that some of what I said can help you. Any question you have, I will answer as I said, and I will see you very soon.